Hello, everyone. Welcome to week number 3 in Science 200. This week is all about finding good, scientific, credible, and relevant sources to help you explain your topic. Remember, scientific is important here too, but we will get into that. So, last week you learned all about the process of science and how it works through the work of John Snow and how he connected contaminated water sources and wells in London to outbreaks of cholera. And it was so important for him to collect all the data, to map out all the cases of cholera, to find out where water sources came from, including how water sources came from the River Thames. And you have to also remember that people were dumping their wastes into the River Thames. So they're getting water out of the Thames, but also dumping their waste products in there. So he showed that miasma, remember that is foul-smelling odors in the air. That's the main way that people thought that diseases were transmitted. He showed that miasma was not how cholera was being transmitted, but instead was through consuming contaminated water. Okay, so you learned all about that last week. This week is all about scientific sources. And I've given you a couple of databases already. I think I do in this week's announcement too. Google Scholar is really good. Not just Google. If you just type in search terms like climate change in Google, oh my goodness, you're going to come up with a bazillion sources, and most of them won't be good and they won't be scientific. So Google Scholar is really good. PubMed is good, but the Shapiro Library is excellent because you can get full text articles. Our library is so big and so extensive that we can get full text articles on most anything that you want to read, which is amazing. With Google Scholar and PubMed, you're going to be reading abstracts, but you probably are not going to be seeing the full text articles. Okay, so find a correct database to help you. And then I want to help you learn about the scientific process through the publication of scientific papers and what the different sections are in a paper and what to look for in the sections. Okay, give me just a second and let's see if I can get this to open. Hyperlink, open hyperlink. All right, and then let me get it fit into my screen here once it opens. Here it comes, and then I'll go back and forth between these two. Okay, so, oops. This is just an article that I pulled up through PubMed, I think. Anyway, I could get to the whole article this way. And so what it is a type of vaccine for COVID with sort of artificially produced virus-like particles. So VLP is going to, and you will see that somewhere in here, VLP is a virus-like particle. So it's something that scientists have made that looks like a virus and that your immune system should react to like a virus, okay? And so they're producing this new technology in order to make new vaccines to help in the prevention of COVID. All right, so here's an article. You see the title. Title's always important because it tells you what the research is about. But on the left-hand side over here, I want you to look over here. See that nice list? It's sort of like a table of contents, which is awesome because you don't always see that. But in this case, you do, and I want to point out the different sections. So the most important section is that one right there, the abstract. Okay, here it is. Wait a minute, let me move my face. There you go. Here is the abstract. The abstract is a summary of the entire paper, so it is the most important section of the whole paper. You need to read the abstract. And a lot of the time, you can get enough information from the abstract that you don't have to go through the other sections, especially on your level of research abilities, right? So the abstract is a summary, and it includes information about background searches that this person has done. The background information, that's the basis for asking the question in this particular case. Then what is the question that they are trying to answer? How did they go about answering it? What were the results that they got? What did the results mean? And what are the final conclusions of the author or authors? And what do they think the future holds for this particular technology or this research that they have done? All of that is contained in the abstract, so that is very, very important. Okay, then there are other sections. The introduction. The introduction is really important, and if you look through here, look at all the references. So in the introduction, the author or authors are presenting all the background information for the reasons why they are asking this question. And they're sharing what other people know about this particular topic. If you want to find more information about a subject and you find one good article, look at all their references. Look, just go to the reference section or look at the intro. And you will find lots and lots of references, and hopefully you will find more good information. So the introduction is really important. The question that will be asked in this particular research will be contained in this section too. Methods and materials. This is how the experimentation was done. There has to be enough information here for anybody to replicate the experiments that were done. For example, they tell you what type of chick embryos they cultured, fetal bovine serum, they used antibiotics to prevent infection in the embryos because they're manipulating these in a lab, and so there's always a chance of infections, etc. The enzyme system that they use to change the DNA, in this case the RNA, for this particular virus construction. And here's the viral particles and how they identified these virus-like particles and how they analyzed the proteins that were produced to make sure they're producing viral proteins that then can be used by your immune system to help protect you, etc., etc. So materials and methods. The materials are never listed like they tell you to do in a lab report in the 7th grade. Everything is just contained in the methods. So there's very specific information about what was used, including the types of enzymes, the types of cells, etc., etc., etc. There's very specific information there, but this is how the experimentation was carried out. Then we have the results section, and this will be where the data is presented, hopefully in graphic form. Raw data is never included because remember, I've told you before that you do experiments over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You would never just present raw data in the results section. And you represent that data graphically if you can. Here are some pictures of some cell culture, and the lit up parts right here they're testing for, I'm guessing, proteins that are produced by these virus-like particles. Here's graphing. Let's see, more graphing. See, lots and lots of graphs for you to interpret, because if you're reading this, then you most likely know all about this subject and you can easily interpret these graphs. Okay, then we have the discussion section right here. Oh, look, here are more references, right? So in the discussion section, you're explaining what your results mean in comparison to what is already known about this topic. And that's why you have all that other information from other sources in there. And then you can have a conclusion section, which or it can be part of the discussion. A conclusion section is one where you explain, well, what do you see in the future having to do with this study? What are further tests that need to be done? What questions have arisen because of your research? That would be in the conclusion section or in the last part of your discussion section. And then you have references. They have a lot of extra sections in here. But anyway, references. If this is a really good article for you, go in that reference section. You will find more sources to help you. Okay, so this is just an example of a journal article, and I'm going to close it now to help you see how you look at, now I can't get it back off here, sorry, how you read a scientific journal article and what's important and where you're going to find what information that you need. Okay? Don't forget the abstract. I can't stress highly enough how important that is. Okay, oops, skipped a whole page here. This week you're going to find 3 really good scientific sources to help you with your topic. And like I said, not just a Google search. Remember those 3 databases that I already told you about. And what you want to do is find credible, relevant sources. So let's talk about this for a second. Credible means that this is an expert in the field. They have actually done research in the field. Hopefully this is some of that research. So credibility is really important. Another thing to look at is, especially toward the end of the article, who paid for the research. If this is government-funded research, then you know that this is an impartial researcher who's doing the work, because they don't have anybody pulling them in one direction or the other to give particular results. If a biotech company is sponsoring this particular research, you can bet that if this work is published, that scientist has come up with information that that particular company wants to see. So look at the source of funding. That will help you. Relevant means that it applies to your particular question. Now, I see this a lot with students. You pull up 3 really good sources, but 1 or 2 of them don't answer your question at all. So, relevant. You have to pick a source and an article that's going to help you with your research and with finding out information about your topic. You're going to find 3 good sources, then you're going to evaluate them through the textbook. I do want to mention plagiarism issues because you're going to use this information throughout the rest of the term, because that's the whole point of this, you to find scientific information and then use it in your presentation. Make sure every time you reference any of this information that you got from your sources that you include in-text citations. So in the body of your work, make sure you give them credit, the author's credit for this work, and include a reference page. Always include a reference page. If you used in-text citations, you need a reference page. Then you have discussion board posts this week. You're going to talk about your biggest challenges in analyzing a scientific source. If you took a look at that article that I just pulled up, you will notice that there's a lot of terminology in there that you do not know, right? I didn't know some of that. VLP, I didn't know what that was because that's a new term to me. That means virus-like particle. It's an artificial virus, in other words. So I had to look it up. The language, the jargon, depending on the field that you are taking a look at. If you're looking at genetics, oh my word, there's a whole different language for genetics. And I have seen the most boring presentations in the world presented by geneticists. You know, the alphabet of DNA is ATGC, right? I have seen whole PowerPoint slides just filled up with A's, T's, G's, and C's that no one on this planet could figure out what it means. I mean, it's just a bunch of letters on a screen. Yeah, so they have some really boring presentations. So anyway, there's jargon for each particular subset of science, even a particular subject area in a science. There's jargon that goes along with that science that you have to get through. And so you have to, this is a place where you can do a Google search, looking up what jargon means. So you have to overcome that somehow. Is there anything else? Were you having trouble figuring out whether this was a credible source? Did you have trouble finding out who paid for the research? How did you overcome these challenges when you were taking a look at your scientific sources? Use examples. Use very specific examples, at least 2, in your initial post. And format, I have no idea why I put format. That's all right. So this is the initial post, always due by Thursday night, and then you're going to have 2 response posts. And so what you're going to do in your response post is take a look at what that person has written and see if you had the same challenges, right? Did you both experience issues with jargon? Did you have problems even finding information about your topic? Did you have trouble narrowing down your information? Because, for example, if you picked ocean acidification, oh my word, I don't even know how many articles you're going to come up with that particular search. So did you have similarities or differences in the issues that you came up against? And share any tips that you have figured out for analyzing your sources. Okay, we're helping each other with this particular process. Hopefully I'm helping you some. All right, tip of the week: use what you learned in your textbook, all about credible and relevant sources, that sort of thing, to help you answer the discussion board questions. This will be important, and follow directions for completing your assignments. Remember those guidelines and rubrics. You have them for everything, and the rubrics are how I grade. I look at that exact rubric broken down into the pieces, and then I analyze to see whether you did a superb job, you did a good job, or you didn't follow the directions, or something is missing. Okay, so just realize that. Follow your directions, the guidelines, and also take a look at the rubric, which is how that particular assignment is graded. With that being said, I hope that you have a great week number 3. And if you need anything, m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I'm here for you. Just let me know.